Hello everyone and welcome to episode 9 of my Python beginners course. In this video I will teach you about for loops in Python. Let's get started. For loops are loops that are used to iterate over things such as lists, tuples, strings, and more. This means that we can run a set of instructions for every item in a list or string individually with a for loop. So as an example of a for loop, I'm going to make a list and it's going to be called my list. I'm going to set it equal to some basic numbers. So 1, 2, 3, and we're going to close it off. Now to make the for loop, we're going to type keyword for I in my list. And what this means is the word for is the keyword to tell Python that you're making a for loop. I is any letter or word that you want. Most people use I or X. Then in is a keyword, and my list is the list that we're using for this example. Then, like with if statements and while loops, we're going to put a colon and press enter and make sure that our code is indented. Now we can type print I, which is the variable that we use. And if I type enter now, you can see it types 1, 2, and 3 because it's gone for I in my list, print I. So for the first item in my list, print it. So in my list, print it out, which is 1, and it's done that. And then it's iterated over the loop again and typed 2, and then done it again 3, and it would have continued if there were more items in the list. So the next thing is the range function, and this is something that's commonly used with for loops. So we type for I in range, and then we put parentheses, and let's just type, for example, 3. Then we type colon, and then we press enter, make sure our code is indented. We can type print I, and now if we press enter, you can see it types 0, 1, and 2 because it's typing, it's printing out 3 numbers because you put print I and you put range 3. And in Python, numbers start from 0, so it's type 0, 1, and 2. You could also type for I in range, let's go with 2 and 4. So 2, 4, and then you put colon, code indented, print I, and this time it's going to print out 2 and 3 because it's printing out the first number that you've specified, which is 2, and the next number, which is 3, because it will never print out the last number that you put. So now I'm going to show you about the statements that you can use with for loops. So the first one is the break statement, and it will exit out of a for loop, skipping out all the other iterations in the code. So I could type for I in range 3, and remember to do a colon and indent your code. I could type print I, and then I could type break, and it's just the keyword break, nothing else. Now, in theory, if I didn't have the break, this should print out 0, 1, and 2, just like it did before. But if we press enter, we'll see that we actually just get 0, because it needs to print out 1, 2, and 3, and it needs to print out 0, 1, and 2. It prints out 0, then it sees the word break, so it ends the for loop and just continues on with the rest of the code. In this case, there isn't any other code. The next one is the continue statement, and you just type it continue like this. It's a keyword, and it works in exactly the same way, except it doesn't exit out of the for loop. It just skips out all of the code underneath it inside the for loop and goes back to the top of the for loop for the next iteration. The third one is the pass statement, and that's used if for some reason you have a for loop that needs to be empty and you can type parse. So I can type for I in range 3, and then I could type parse, which is also a keyword, and if I press enter, nothing happens because it just passes through the for loop and continues on with the rest of the code. So now I'm going to show you 2 more things you can do with for loops. The first one is nesting loops inside of for loops. So inside a for loop, you can put another for loop, a while loop, or an if statement inside it. And you can also put other for loops, while loops, and if statements inside those. And it's as simple as that. It all works just like you would expect it, and that's as basic as it gets. The second thing is that you can use an else statement after the for loop. So just like while loops and if statements, you can have a set of code that will run if the for loop is not running. So that's the end of episode 9. In episode 10, we will learn about functions in Python. Thank you for watching and have a great day.